Chapter 21. I will clean house. A sudden voice instantly caught the attention of everyone present. The many disciples of the Western sect in the hall all turned to look in the direction of the voice. Yet, no one could be seen. The voice arrived before the person did. This individual's audacity was extraordinary indeed. To dare call out and insult Ran Dung by name. And from these words, it was clear that this person was also a disciple of the Jia sect. If this were before the start of the investiture of the god's calamity, when the Jia sect had 10,000 immortals coming to pay homage, such arrogance might have been somewhat justified. But now, with only a tenth of the Jia sect disciples left, who would dare cause trouble at Mount Sumu? Hearing this, Gu Changsheng and the others showed a fleeting expression of joy. Could it be that Myeon from the Jia sect had come to rescue them? But this joy was quickly shattered by Ran Deng's actions. The mana gathered in Ran Deng's hands paused for a moment, then became even stronger, directly attacking Gu Changsheng and his companions. If previously Ran Deng's intent was to avert Gu Changsheng and his companions to their original forms, now, after hearing this voice, Ran Dung clearly wanted to kill them. Ran Deng's face showed a playful smile. Interesting. Who did Ran Dung think he was? Even at the height of the Jia sect, aside from Tongtian, no one dared speak to him in such a manner. Now, with the Jia sect nearly annihilated, and Tongtian confined in the Jiejiao palace, who could this newcomer be? Relying on just a few words to make him stop. What a dream. Ran Dung wanted to see, after killing a few Jia sect disciples, what this person could do to him. As Ran Deng's mana descended, Gu Changsheng and the others had no power to resist. This strike would surely be fatal. But just as the strike was about to land on Gu Changsheng and his companions, a golden light flashed from afar, directly blocking Ran Deng's attack. Ran Deng's mana was halted by this golden light. Seeing this, Ran Deng's eyes narrowed slightly, filled with surprise. His mana was at the quasi-saint level. Could there still be a quasi-saint in the Jia sect? The next moment, a figure in white appeared outside the hall. Ran Dung focused his gaze. This person's stature was tall, and his demeanor extraordinary, yet there was no sense of mana fluctuation from him. Could this be a disciple of the Jia sect? Ran Dung sneered. To come at such a time? Before he could finish, Gu Changsheng, from a distance, waved his right hand and shouted, "Ran Dung, if you wish to die, I can send you on your way." With a wave of his hand, an indescribable and powerful mana burst forth. The golden light shot straight at Ran Dung. In an instant, Ran Dung was sent flying, smashing through a corner of the hall and landing outside. The entire hall fell silent. All eyes were fixed on the tall figure in white. The mana fluctuation from Gu Changsheng's attack just now made everyone present shiver. Sahang Taoist and several former disciples of the Chan sect looked at Gu Changsheng with eyes full of confusion. Although they didn't know Gu Changsheng's exact cultivation level, it was certainly higher than theirs. Quasi-saint pinnacle. But how could Ran Dung, also a quasi-saint, be sent flying with one blow? Those who had not experienced the incident at the investiture platform naturally didn't understand Gu Changsheng's strength. As for the Hoggen before the Great Desolation, the strongest were Dao ancestor Hoggen and the 6 saints. So, despite Gu Changsheng's astonishing display of power, no one thought of the Hunyuan Dalola fell. However, a quasi-saint suddenly appearing in the Jia sect was already shocking enough. Shang Ding Guangxian on the side stared intently at Gu Changsheng. Though he had defected, as one of the 7 immortals, he was familiar with all the outstanding disciples of the Jia sect, people like Duobao, Jinling Shenmu, and the 3 madams. But he had never seen this person before. Gu Changsheng and the others who narrowly escaped death also looked at Gu Changsheng with surprise and doubt. They hadn't seen him before either. As everyone was puzzled by Gu Changsheng's identity, a thunderous roar echoed. Ran Dung rushed back into the hall. However, he was now in a sorry state. Covered in dust, his clothes tattered, and his left sleeve stained with blood. Ran Dung glared at Gu Changsheng, his eyes full of anger, and demanded loudly, "When did such a person emerge in the Jia sect? Who are you, and what is your purpose here at Mount Sumu?" From that single blow, it was clear that Gu Changsheng's cultivation was not inferior to his. When had the Jia sect gained such a disciple? Listening to Ran Deng's question, Gu Changsheng replied indifferently, "Gu Changsheng, disciple of the Jia sect. The name Gu Changsheng deepened the confusion on the faces of everyone present, especially the 7 Immortals. They had never heard of a Gu Changsheng among the Jie sect disciples. Gu Changsheng continued. As for my purpose here at Mount Sumu, it's simple. First, I will take back the Jie sect disciples like Qiu Shixin, who were captured by your Western sect. Second, Gu Changsheng's gaze shifted to Ding Guangxian on the side. His cold words slowly emerged. Clean house for the Jie sect. At the moment Gu Changsheng's gaze fell on him, Ding Guangxian felt as if he was plunged into an icy abyss, a chill rapidly spreading from his spine to his entire body. He was frozen in place, unable to move. Such fear he had never experienced, not ever, and when facing Tongtian after his betrayal. Biting his tongue hard, Ding Guangxian managed to regain some composure. He looked at Gu Changsheng and spoke solemnly. The Jie sect has fallen. I see your cultivation is strong. Why not join the Western sect with me? These words were clearly directed at both Gu Changsheng and Ran Dong. I, Ding Guangxian, am now a member of the Western sect. If a Jie sect disciple comes for revenge, the Western sect should intervene. Ran Dong, though also displeased with Ding Guangxian, saw this as an opportunity to prove himself after joining the Western sect. He looked at Gu Changsheng coldly and said, even if Tongtian were here, he wouldn't dare speak such arrogant words. You've trespassed into the heart of the Western sect. Today, I will take you down to uphold the prestige of the Western sect. As he spoke, a mana rose around Ran Dong, and a ruler appeared in his right hand. It was the merit treasure, the measuring heaven ruler. Though Gu Changsheng's cultivation was strong, with his treasure, Ran Dong was confident he could capture him. But soon Ran Dong began to doubt this thought, because Gu Changsheng, with a cold smile, brought a sword to his right hand, and a sword's hum resonated through the hall. The Kingpin's sword pointed directly at Ran Dong. Who do you think you are, to dare speak ill of my master? Chapter 22, Defeating Ran Dong, and killing Ding Guangxian. Originally, Gu Changsheng's goal for this trip was to bring back Qiu Shixin and the others, and to kill Ding Guangxian. As for Ran Dong and the others, they were not part of Gu Changsheng's current plan. The road was long, and the debts of the Jie sect had to be collected slowly. Ran Dong and Seheng, these people had to be kept for future use. But when Gu Changsheng arrived at Mount Sumu, and saw Ran Dong trying to revert Qiu Shixin, and the others to their original forms, he was already enraged. Hearing Ran Dong's words, his anger reached its peak. In that case, he might as well take down Ran Dong. As soon as the Kingpin's sword appeared, the disciples of the Jie sect, like Qiu Shixin, saw a glimmer of hope. But on the other side, Ding Guangxian was even more terrified, ambling uncontrollably. At this moment, Gu Changsheng, holding the Kingpin's sword, seemed even more terrifying than Tongtian had been at Lin Tuing Pass. No, Gu Changsheng was even more frightening than Tongtian. Instinctively, Ding Guangxian knew that running was the best option now, that Ran Dong deal with Gu Changsheng. But if he ran now, having just joined the Western sect, what face would he have left in the Western sect? Wouldn't he become a laughingstock? After all, this was Mount Sumu, and Ran Dong was here. Even if Ran Dong wasn't a match for Gu Changsheng, there were still the 2 saints of the Western sect. Staying here was the safest option for him. No, what was he thinking? No matter how powerful Gu Changsheng was, he couldn't possibly surpass Ran Dong. Ran Dong was, after all, the vice-sect leader of the Chan sect. Calming down, Ding Guangxian regained some confidence. As Ding Guangxian calmed down, Ran Dong's expression became increasingly twisted. Who did he, Ran Dong, think he was? In terms of seniority, he was equal to the 3 Pure Ones. If the 3 Pure Ones hadn't obtained the primordial purple chi, their current cultivation might not even be as high as his. Even Yuanshi had to appoint him as the vice-sect leader of the Chan sect. And now, this mere Jie sect disciple, Gu Changsheng, dared to look down on him. Did Gu Changsheng really think that wielding the Kingpin's sword made him the leader of the Jie sect? But before Ran Dong could make a move, Gu Changsheng had already acted. He had no patience to waste time with Ran Dong. With a swing of the Kingpin's sword, he struck directly at Ran Dong. Seeing the Kingpin's sword descending, Ran Dong sneezed. If Tongtian were here wielding the Kingpin's sword, I might still have some fear. But who are you? Ran Dong raised the measuring heaven ruler, and as his mana flared, a dazzling golden light burst forth from the ruler. But when the measuring heaven ruler collided with the Kingping's sword, Randung realized how ridiculous he had been. With a crack, the Kingping's sword cut into the measuring heaven ruler. Although it didn't completely break the measuring heaven ruler, it was enough to shock Randung. He hurriedly retreated a few steps, checking the massive ring heaven ruler again. Its light dimmed considerably. Impossible. The Kingping's sword was an innate spiritual treasure, but his measuring heaven ruler was also an innate merit treasure. Even if there was a difference between the two, it shouldn't be so vast. Just one clash and he measuring heaven ruler was nearly destroyed. You dare to destroy my treasure. Randung roared, his mana bursting forth once more. This time, he used all his strength, bringing the measuring heaven ruler down on Gu Changsheng again. But Gu Changsheng only sneered, his gaze turned. I see. As the Kingping's sword struck again, the power of a Hunyuan Dalo Jingxian was fully unleashed. The Kingping's sword fell, and the measuring heaven ruler was cleaved in two. Randung was stunned, exclaiming in disbelief. You are a Hunyuan Dalo Jingxian. He finally understood why the measuring heaven ruler was so easily broken. It wasn't the Kingping's sword, it was Gu Changsheng himself. A disciple of the Jie sect had become a Hunyuan Dalo Jingxian. How could you achieve Hunyuan Dalo? Randung's voice rose several octaves, filled with shock and envy. Becoming a heavenly Dao saint required the Honmeng purple chi, but achieving Hunyuan Dalo Jingxian was even harder. Thus, Randung had never pursued this path. But now, a disciple of the Jie sect had achieved it. Everyone in the hall was dumbfounded. Xiao Shuxin and the OTHAS were overjoyed. A Hunyuan Dalo Jingxian, they were saved. Ding Guangxian's face turned ashen. Why did a Hunyuan Dalo have to appear now? What should he do? Gu Changsheng, however, didn't stop attacking Randung just because of his exclamation. Mana surged on the Kingping sword. With a power that tore through space, the sword slashed towards Randung's face. Someone like you will never achieve Hunyuan Dalo. Gu Changsheng's mocking words echoed simultaneously. At this moment, Randung had no time to be angry at Gu Changsheng's words. His eyes were filled with terror. How could he block a Hunyuan Dalo's strike? Desperate, Randung unleashed all his treasures. But what use were these treasures against Gu Changsheng? Under the Kingping's sword, all his treasures were destroyed. But just as the sword was about to kill Randung waved his right hand, releasing a burst of five-colored light. Gu Changsheng's gaze flickered. Amidst the five-colored light were round beads. Innate spiritual treasures, the Dinghai divine beads. These were Zhao Gongming's treasures. Gu Changsheng quickly redirected the Kingping's sword, bypassing the Dinghai divine beads. With a grab of his left hand, he snatched the Dinghai divine beads. Although he lost the Dinghai divine beads, Randung managed to dodge the fatal blow and survived. But he soon realized something. Although Gu Changsheng's sword no longer aimed at him, the sword's edge turned towards Ding Guangxian. Gu Changsheng, you! Randung shouted. But Gu Changsheng merely glanced at him, and Randung dared not speak further. On the other side, Ding Guangxian saw the sword light coming towards him and was terrified. He knew he couldn't block a Hunyuan Dalo's sword. He hastily summoned his mana, forming a barrier in front of him, while shouting, Master, save me. Before he could finish, the sword light arrived. The mana barrier shattered instantly. The sword light sliced through, cutting Ding Guangxian in half. Gu Changsheng coldly declared, From the moment you betrayed the Jie sect, you should have known this would be your fate. The next moment, golden light burst forth in the hall, and holy power filled the air. Gu Changsheng, you have great courage. Chapter 23. This is how you steal a treasure. As the holy power erupted, a golden light surged into the hall from outside. Randung was instantly overjoyed. What if Gu Changsheng was a Hunyuan Dalo Jingxian? This was Mount Sumu, home to the two saints of the Western sect. Even though they were the weakest among the 6 saints of the Hongwan world, dealing with a mere Gu Changsheng should be more than enough. Gu Changsheng might have reached Hunyuan Dalo, but how strong could he be? Probably just at the first or second level. As the golden light reached Gu Changsheng, he raised the Kingping's sword, and with a simple horizontal cut, obliterated the saint's attack. Seeing this, Randung comforted himself, thinking it must have been a casual strike from the two saints, not a serious effort. Everyone else in the hall looked in the direction from which the golden light had come. A Taoist figure was slowly approaching. It was Junti Taoist, one of the two saints of the Western sect. On the other side, Ding Guangxian, who had been cut in half by Gu Changsheng, saw a glimmer of hope. Even though Gu Changsheng's strike had severed his li for force, he still had a little time left. Ding Guangxian looked expectantly at Shanti. If a saint intervened, he might still survive. But Shanti merely glanced at him coldly, and said, "Useless." That single word sent a shiver through Ding Guangxian's heart. His body trembled uncontrollably, perhaps from pain or some other reason. Ding Guangxian looked at the indifferent Shanti, and then at Gu Changsheng, who was protecting Qiu Shixin and the others. There was a stark contrast between the two. As his life force faded, Ding Guangxian felt a pang of regret. Jiang had let him join the Western sect. It was just to use him to steal the Six Soul banner. Now that he was of no use, why would Shanti save him? Yet Gu Changsheng, even with the Jie sect in such dire straits, had come to Mount Sumo alone to rescue them. What a mockery! Unfought, innately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. The life faded from Ding Guangxian's eyes. This traitor of the Jie sect ultimately died at Gu Changsheng's hands. Ding Guangxian's death didn't cause much of a stir. After all, to most, this traitor deserved to die. Now, everyone's attention was on Gu Changsheng and Shanti. Qiu Shixin looked at Gu Changsheng, his expression complex. After a brief hesitation, Qiu Shixin made a decision and said through gritted teeth, "Gu Changsheng, we're grateful you came to save us. But you shouldn't stay here. You should leave quickly. If their master was still around, it might be different. But now, with their master confined in the Jiejiao palace, it was hard for Gu Changsheng to face the two saints of the Western sect alone. It would be better to leave, gather strength, and later rebuild the Jie sect. Gu Changsheng was the hope of the Jie sect. He shouldn't stay here." But Gu Changsheng looked at Qiu Shixin, a slight smile playing at his lips, and said calmly, "Don't worry. I said I would take you away, and no one can stop me. So what if they are the two saints of the Western sect? In this Hongwang world, aside from Daozi, no one could defeat him." His simple words were filled with boundless confidence. Qiu Shixin and the others were speechless. Could Gu Changsheng really defeat the two saints of the Western sect? As Gu Changsheng finished speaking, and his face turned cold, and the holy power around him surged. He had been discussing Gu Changsheng with Jiang, dismissing it as not their concern and letting Gu Changsheng trouble the Chan sect. Both had thought Gu Changsheng wouldn't dare to trouble the Western sect. But not only had Gu Changsheng come, he had come directly to Mount Sumo. When Gu Changsheng first appeared, Shanti intended for random to test his strength, leading to the earlier events. As for Ding Guangxian, Shanti hadn't cared about him from the start. His death was insignificant. Santi Koldal, why said, Gu Changsheng, with the Jie sect in such a state, the Western sect did not wish to add insult to injury. But you are too arrogant, stealing our treasures and killing our disciples. Today, I will capture you, and imprison you under Mount Sumu for 10,000 years of repentance. As he spoke, Shanti summoned the 6 clean bamboo, and his holy power grew even stronger. Gu Changsheng sneered, looking at Shanti with contempt. When it comes to shamelessness, you two saints of the Western sect are unmatched in the Hongwang world. The Ding Hai divine beads were originally the treasure of Zhao Gongming, a disciple of the Jie sect. When did they become the treasure of the Western sect? With that, Gu Changsheng raised the Kingping sword, its blade glowing with mana. The next moment, Shanti's 6 clean bamboo struck towards Gu Changsheng. But Gu Changsheng stepped forward, the Kingping sword held back, and reached out with his left hand to grab the 6 clean bamboo. Seeing this, Shanti's eyes filled with disdain. Gu Changsheng was just a Jie sect disciple. What use was his Hunyuan Dalo cultivation? The 6 clean bamboo couldn't be saint up this way. Soon, Gu Changsheng's 6 senses would be sealed, and then Shanti could easily capture him. Under Shanti's watchful gaze, Gu Changsheng grabbed the 6 clean bamboo. But his hand didn't stop. The Kingping sword in his right hand swung down towards Shanti. Shanti was shocked, crying out, "Impossible! How could Gu Changsheng be unaffected by the 6 clean bamboo?" But the only response was Gu Changsheng's Kingping sword. As the sword fell, Gu Changsheng's mana surged even stronger. In desperation, Shanti summoned the 7 treasures tree. With a clang, the 7 treasures tree blocked the Kingping sword strike. The entire hall collapsed under the force. Shanti reached out and shouted, "Give me back the 6 clean bamboo." But Gu Changsheng simply put away the 6 clean bamboo, and said calmly, "Now, this is what I call stealin', your treasure." As for why the 6 clean bamboo was ineffective, it was simple. Gu Changsheng's cultivation was higher than Zhanti's, and his cultivated Dao immortal body was immune to the 6 clean bamboo's effects. Santi trembled with rage. How dare Gu Changsheng steal his treasure? Moreover, from that last sword strike, it seemed Gu Changsheng's cultivation wasn't just at the 1st or 2nd level of Hunyuan Dalo. His cultivation was higher than Zhanti had imagined. Just as Zhanti was about to attack again, Gu Changsheng said, "Jiayin, how long are you going to watch?" Chapter 24. Do you have the qualification? As the voice resounded, a figure instantly appeared before everyone. It was Jiayin. Seeing Jiayin, the worry in Gu Changsheng and the others' eyes deepened. They couldn't help but feel helpless, as they could do nothing but rely on Gu Changsheng. Randong, on the other hand, looked at Gu Changsheng with schadenfreude. No matter how strong Gu Changsheng was, he couldn't possibly withstand the combined force of the 2 saints of the Western sect. Zhanti, seeing Jiayin's arrival, expressed his displeasure. "Brother, I can handle him alone. There's no need for you to intervene." The idea of the 2 saints teaming up against a single Jie sect disciple was shameful, even if they won. However, Jiayin replied, "Let me handle this." Zhanti seemed about to protest, but then held back and left. Although Zhanti was G1, Jiayin remained, and his cultivation was above Zhanti's. Jiayin rose slowly, golden light emanating from the 12-petal golden lotus of merit beneath him, which had now fallen to a 9-petal lotus after the battle of the 10,000 Immortals array. Surrounding himself with holy POW, "Ah," he said in a deep voice, "I know you have been holding back. Show me your true strength." Gu Changsheng laughed lightly, his mana surging. "All my strength. Do you have the qualification?" As his power reached its peak, Jiayin's expression changed momentarily, but quickly returned to normal. "No wonder you dared come to Mount Sumo. You have reached the 5th level of Hunyuan Dalo." Everyone was stunned, especially Randung. A 5th level Hunyuan Dalo was a force that only Laozi, among the 6 saints of Hongwang, might surpass. Gu Changsheng and the others saw hope. Gu Changsheng could surely rescue them. Jiayin's tone turned icy. "Even at the 5th level, you can't be arrogant here." With holy power surging, Jiayin pointed at Gu Changsheng, a golden hand forming and grasping toward him. But this attack was effortlessly shattered by the Qin Ping sword, which then aimed directly at Jiayin. The 9-petal golden lotus of merit radiated golden light, blocking the Qingping sword. The clash of their powers caused the already damaged hall to collapse entirely. Several weaker Western sect disciples were either killed or injured by the residual energy. Gu Changsheng protected Gu Changsheng and the reverted Wu Yangxian with a pale purple light, while Jiayin protected some of his disciples. Gu Changsheng then abandoned the Qingping sword, charging at Jiayin. Jiayin met him head-on, casting various spells. Their battle caused Mount Sumu to tremble violently. After a long while, the fight subsided. Both the Qingping sword and the 9-petal golden lotus of merit returned to their masters. Though the lotus had the upper hand, Gu Changsheng had the advantage in their duel. Jiayin's face was pale, Relitsai. Ng Gu Changsheng was almost at the 6th level of Hunyuan Dalo, holding back his full power. As Jiayin pondered, Gu Changsheng spoke, "Aren't you ready yet?" Jiayin was puzzled, so Gu Changsheng clarified, "Haven't you prepared your means to deal with me?" Jiayin, known for his cunning, had to be plotting something. Jiayin, initially stunned, laughed. "Gu Changsheng, you are indeed formidable. Now I see how you escaped the Fengshan platform. But today, you won't leave Mount Sumu." At that moment, Zhanti returned, looking shocked at Gu Changsheng's strength. Jiayin asked, "Ready?" Santi nodded, "Yes." Jiayin's eyes gleamed with cunning. "Then let's begin." As Jiayin spoke, Zhanti released a golden light, and the entire Mount Sumu trembled. Light beams interwove around them, forming a cage-like array, the Bodhi array. Though not as powerful as the 12 heavenly gods and demons array, or the Zhoutian star formation, it was simpler to set up. Despite the rush, Zhanti had completed it. Jiayin smiled. "How do you like the Bodhi array?" But Gu Changsheng, with a look of disdain, replied, "You spent all this time fighting me to set up such a worthless array." Chapter 25. the sword slices Mount Sumu. Gu Changsheng's reaction caught everyone off guard. This was the Bodhi array, yet Gu Changsheng showed no sign of concern. Was he bluffing? Seeing this, Jiayan's face turned cold. Initially, Jiayan hadn't taken Gu Changsheng seriously, attributing his disruption at the Fengshan platform to the incompetence of others. But in reality, Jiayan hadn't been careless. When Gu Changsheng revealed his Hunyuan Dalo Jingxian level, Jiayan began to strategize. Jiayan understood that anyone who reached Hunyuan Dalo Jingxian wouldn't be reckless, implying Gu Changsheng had a way to escape Mount Sumu. Therefore, Jiayan decided he had to either capture or kill Gu Changsheng, who would become a major threat to the Western sect if allowed to grow stronger. Jiayan said coldly, since you disdain the Bodhi array so much, you must be able to break it. Gu Changsheng glanced at the array and scoffed, breaking it. How difficult could it be? Junti, irritated by this, activated the array fully, enveloping Gu Changsheng in its light. Bare-faced arrogance. Let's see how you break the array, Zanti said. Meanwhile, Jiayan moved the Western sect disciples outside the array. Within the Bodhi array, terrifying attacks bombarded Gu Changsheng. Each could severely injure a first-level saint. However, these attacks merely caused starlight to radiate from Gu Changsheng, his Dao immortal body effortlessly assisting them. Outside the array, Junti frowned in confusion. How is Gu Changsheng trained? Even Tongtian wouldn't know this body refining technique. Jiayan, watching intently, said, Gu Changsheng is surprising. But even his body refining technique can't withstand the array's attack indefinitely. Jiayan then offered, Gu Changsheng, I see you have a connection with our Western sect. Join us, and I'll let you leave the array. Far from being swayed, Gu Changsheng retorted, You really think this array can trap me? Zanti, infuriated, shouted, Break it. Let's you try. Indeed, Gu Changsheng didn't understand the Bodhi array, but he knew that overwhelming power could break through any technique. Gu Changsheng sheathed the Kingping sword, and a destructive purple light blossomed from his right hand. The Shaitan sword emerged. Jiayan and Junti's eyes widened. Even from a distance, they could see the Shaitan sword's extraordinary nature, an innate supreme treasure. Junti's voice was filled with jealousy. Gu Changsheng's mana surged to its peak, and the Shaitan sword radiated a malevolent purple lotus. With a single slash, the Bodhi array showed signs of breaking. It's not an innate supreme treasure, it's a chaotic supreme treasure. Jiayan exclaimed, confirming the Shaitan sword's rank. Zanti, unable to accept it, shouted, Impossible. How could he have a chaotic supreme treasure? How could my Bodhi array break? The hastily set up Bodhi array couldn't withstand the Shaitan sword. After breaking the array, Gu Changsheng didn't stop. He raised the Shaitan sword again, aiming at Mount Sumu. Jiayan's face changed, and he shouted, Gu Changsheng, don't you dare. But Gu Changsheng was unstoppable. Under Jiayan and Junti's gaze, the Shaitan sword descended. With a deafening roar, Mount Sumu was cleaved in half, collapsing into two parts. Mount Sumu was no more. Chapter 26, I have the right to be arrogant. Crash. Amidst the collapsing mountain of Mount Sumu, the sound of falling debris continued to echo. At this moment, time seemed to stand still. A figure in white stood atop Mount Sumu, holding a long sword. The heavenly slayer rode in his hand still maintained a swinging posture. Everyone who witnessed this scene, including the two Western saints, was utterly dumbfounded. Xiao and the others looked at Gu Changsheng with growing admiration in their eyes. With Gu Changsheng here, the revival of the Jie sect was just around the corner. Random and the other Western sect disciples were in a daze as they stared at Gu Changsheng. How could this guy be so daring? Gu Changsheng's primordial Da Luo golden immortal cultivation was not weak, but compared to his audacity, it was nothing. Destroying someone's sacred ground, this action had cemented a deadly enmity with the Western sect. The two Western saints stood frozen, their faces blank. Both the receiver and Junti had countless questions swirling in their minds. How could a disciple of the Jie sect possess a Ch's treasure, something even Tongtian did not have? How did Gu Changsheng dare to destroy Mount Sumu with his sword? A sacred ground was closely tied to a sect's fate. During the Dragon and Han tribulation, when Hobjin and others battled the demon ancestor Luohu, Mount Sumu was destroyed. This caused the Western sect's foundation to be severely damaged, and it hadn't fully recovered until now. Yet now, Mount Sumu was destroyed again by Gu Changsheng. How could the two Western saints accept this? Especially the receiver, whose face twisted visibly with rage. Everything he had planned and achieved since the Lich tribulation was destroyed by Gu Changsheng's single sword strike. The receiver's face contorted with fury, and his eyes seemed to shoot flames as he glared at Gu Changsheng. Du Shan Sheng, he shouted through gritted teeth, his holy aura surging. But Gu Changsheng just smiled slightly and said calmly, "No need to shout so loudly, I can hear you. This sword is merely the interest I'm collecting from the Western sect, on behalf of the Jie sect. The actions of the Western sect during the investiture of the gods couldn't be offset by just this one sword strike." Seeing Gu Changsheng's indifferent attitude, the receiver's rage boiled over, and his holy aura exploded. He charged at Gu Changsheng. "Do you think being a primordial Dalur of the fifth heaven allows you to be so arrogant in my Western sect? Today, my Western sect will capture you." Roaring, the receiver's hands formed spells, sending numerous divine abilities towards Gu Changsheng. At this moment, the receiver had lost all reason. No matter what, the destruction of Mount Sumu must be avenged. Day, Gu Changsheng must be captured. Junti, seeing this, also activated his power and rushed towards Gu Changsheng. The two Western saints attacked Gu Changsheng together. Above the collapsing Mount Sumu, terrifying magic power clashes spread out, creating a frightening aura that even quasi-saints found hard to withstand. If not for the receiver's prior protective magic barrier around Random and the other Western sect disciples, this battle could have left only the two Western saints standing. Xiao Shuxen and the others were unharmed under Gu Changsheng's pure protection. Everyone watched the battle above Mount Sumu. Could the combined might of the two Western saints be a match for Gu Changsheng? The answer was obviously no. Previously, at the investiture of the gods platform, even Yuanqi and Laozi together couldn't defeat Gu Changsheng. Moreover, the cultivation of the two Western saints was inferior to Yuanqi and Laozi. In terms of treasures, the Western saints' artifacts were also no match for the Heavenly Slayer's sword. Within a few exchanges, the receiver and Junti already bore injuries. The Heavenly SLR sword glowed with purple light, slashing down. The receiver hurriedly summoned the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus. Instantly, purple and golden lights intertwined, filling the sky. But the receiver's face grew increasingly grim. He could feel the power of the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus weakening. An ultimate innate spiritual treasure could not withstand the attack of a chaos treasure. Helpless, the receiver waved his right hand, and amidst the golden light, he summoned another treasure, the Eastern Green Lotus Banner. With two ultimate innate spiritual treasures, he barely managed to fend off the Heavenly Slayer's sword. At this moment, the receiver noticed the disdain in Gu Changsheng's eyes. This guy wasn't even using his full strength, he was toying with them. The receiver's mind felt like it was going to explode, his eyes bloodshot. Since becoming a saint, when had he ever been mocked like this? He couldn't believe that as the Grand Master of the Western sect, he couldn't handle a disciple of the Jie sect. The receiver roared, and the Eastern Green Lotus Banner and the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus shone brightly, their power surging. Junti, seeing this, also gave his all, the 7 treasures tree emitting radiant light, and the sound of metal clashing. But facing the full force of the two Western saints, Gu Changsheng remained calm, swinging the Heavenly Slayer's sword in midair. The sword's blade blossomed with purple lotus flowers, radiating destructive intent. In the next moment, the attacks collided in the air. With a loud explosion, the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus, the Eastern Green Lotus Banner, and the 7 treasures tree were all blasted back. The receiver looked closely and saw cracks on both the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus and the Eastern Green Lotus Banner. Both treasures were damaged. Although this damage could be repaired, such a powerful attack hadn't even harmed Gu Changsheng. The receiver couldn't fathom how, with Tongtian confine to the Zixia Palace, another formidable figure from the Jie sect could appear. What now? The destruction of Mount Sumu had to be avenged. But the receiver had to admit, the two Western saints alone couldn't capture Gu Changsheng. At this moment, Gu Changsheng looked at the Western saints, casually waving the Heavenly Slayer's sword, and mocked. "What, is this all the Western saints are capable of? It seems I do have the right to be arrogant." Compared to Yuanqi and Laozi, the Western saints were indeed weaker. Even without the Heavenly Slayer sword, his primordial Da Luo fifth heaven cultivation was enough to handle the two Western saints. The Heavenly Slayer sword was almost wasted on them. Hearing Gu Changsheng's disdain, the receiver felt his teeth grind in fury but couldn't refute him. Just then, a figure approached swiftly farther, in the distance. Who would have thought the two Western saints would find themselves in such a situation? The cold voice carried a hint of schadenfreude. Seeing the newcomer, the receiver shouted angrily, "Yuanshi, what are you doing in my Western sect?" Chapter 27. One man battles four saints. As Yuanshi arrived suddenly, Random and Sehang Taoist, along with the others, froze, their faces tense. They didn't dare meet Yuanshi's gaze since they had previously belonged to the Chan sect, but now had joined the Western sect. Hearing the receiver's questioning, Yuanshi coldly laughed. "What am I here for? What do you think I'm here for?" He was, of course, here to settle accounts with the two saints of the West. Ignoring Sehang Taoist and the others was one thing, but even the vice leader Random had joined the Western sect. How could Yuanshi tolerate this? On his way to Mount Sumo, Yuanshi had sensed the intense magic fluctuations from the mountain, prompting him to hurry over. Seeing Yuanshi's aggressive stance, the receiver realized the situation was bad. Why was Yuanshi choosing this moment to settle scores? But on second thought, Random and the others had joined the Western sect voluntarily, so what was there to fear? Moreover, Yuanshi's arrival was timely. Without Gu Changsheng, Yuanshi might indeed cause a commotion at Mount Sumo. But with Gu Changsheng present, Tha had a common enemy. The receiver spoke sternly. Yuanshi, Sehang and the others joined the Western sect of their own accord. What can you say? Besides, I heard that Gu Changsheng caused a great disturbance at the investiture of the gods platform, slaying your Chan sect disciples. Why not join forces to capture him? The Western saints couldn't defeat Gu Changsheng, but with Yuanshi added, perhaps they could. Before the receiver finished speaking, Yuanshi's gaze had already fixed on Gu Changsheng. Even without the receiver's words, Yuanshi wanted to deal with Gu Changsheng first. Compared to the poaching by the Western sect, Gu Changsheng's slaughter of the Chan sect disciples was far more hateful. Moreover, seeing the collapse of Mount Sumo had already quelled much of Yuanshi's anger. Yuanshi stepped forward, summoning his treasure jade scepter, ready to act. You dare show yourself again? Gu Changsheng sneered. A joke. Why wouldn't I dare show myself? As for you, last time Hogjan saved you. Do you dare face me again? As Gu Changsheng spoke, the two Western saints had already approached. Even facing three saints, Gu Changsheng remained unfazed, his expression one of disdain. Do you think the three of you can defeat me together? The three saints remained silent. Just as they were about to strike, another voice echoed from the sky. Really? What about if I join in as well? Everyone looked up to see Laozi arriving. Yuanshi had come to settle scores with the Western saints, but Laozi had sensed the magic fluctuations from Mount Sumo, and followed, arriving a step later. Now, all four saints were present. Xiushixin and the others turned pale. Even though Gu Changsheng had shown impressive strength earlier, could he withstand the combined might of four saints? Compared to the worried faces of Xiushixin and the others, Gu Changsheng looked at Laozi and chuckled. So what if three trash combined with another piece of trash? It's still just four pieces of trash. Do you think numbers alone will help you win? The Heavenly Slayer's sword emitted a boundless aura. The sword's edge turned, and a purple sword beam slashed toward the four saints. Facing four saints, Gu Changsheng showed no sign of retreat. Instead, he took the initiative to attack. Yuanshi and the other three saints, already aware of the sword's power, dared not be careless. They unleashed their full power, summoning treasures. The Pangu banner, the Taijai diagram, the 9-rank merit golden lotus, the 3 trays, jade scepter, the coiling dragon staff, the eastern green lotus banner, the southern fire waving banner. The saints continuously launched their treasures, attacking Gu Changsheng together. The sky above Mount Sumo seemed on the verge of shattering from the tremendous battle. The 4 saints, along with Gu Changsheng, a primordial Da Luo golden immortal. The scale of this battle was no less than the one during the 10,000 Immortals array. Below, Random and the other Western sect disciples watched in a daze. Wasn't the Jiejiao sect nearly wiped out after the investiture of the gods? How could a single Jiejiao sect disciple possess such power, able to fight 4 saints alone? And from the looks of it, Even with 4 saints joining forces, Yuanshi and the others were not gaining any advantage. Not even Tongtian could do this. Where did Gu Changsheng come from? If the 4 saints couldn't capture Gu Changsheng today, the entire wilderness would be thrown into chaos. Above the sky, Yuanshi and the other 3 saints were still being suppressed by Gu Changsheng. The Pangu banner and the Taijai diagram were impressive, but compared to the Heavenly Slayer's sword, they were lacking. Regarding the saint's cultivation, if a heavenly Dao saint of the first heaven were comparable to a primordial Dao Luo golden immortal of the first heaven. Among the 4 saints, only Laozi's cultivation surpassed Gu Changsheng's primordial Dao Luo 5th heaven. Furthermore, a primordial Dao Luo's power generally surpassed that of a heavenly Dao saint of the same level. Seeing that the combined strength of the 4 saints couldn't subdue Gu Changsheng, Yuanshi's eyes filled with bloodshot veins. Same time, Gu Changsheng escaped. This time, he must not let Gu Changsheng escape again. No matter what, Gu Changsheng had to be captured today. But given the current situation, capturing Gu Changsheng required paying a price. He needed to leverage the advantage of being a heavenly Dao saint. Heavenly Dao saints could die and be reborn, whereas primordial Dao Luo immortals perished completely. Determination flashed in Yuanshi's eyes. But before Yuanshi could act, the receiver shouted angrily. A terrifying force erupted from the Eastern Green Lotus banner. The receiver was going to detonate the Eastern Green Lotus banner. With a deafening explosion, the Eastern Green Lotus banner shattered. Such a terrifying force was enough to severely wound a heavenly Dao saint. Laozi and the others stepped back to avoid the impact. The receiver stared coldly at the spot where the banner exploded. Though he lost a treasure, capturing Gu Changsheng would make it worthwhile. But as Gu Changsheng emerged from the smoke, it was clear he was unscathed. His clothes were tattered, and his skin glittered with starlight. Even the self-detonation of the Eastern Green Lotus banner hadn't harmed him. Gu Changsheng's expression grew more serious. He had underestimated his opponents. Who would have thought the receiver would sacrifice the Eastern Green Lotus banner? Just now, the defense of his undying Dao body had reached its limit. If the force had been slightly stronger, he would have been severely injured. Pointing his heavenly Slayer's sword at the receiver, he said coldly, "Now it's my turn." Seeing Gu Changsheng approach, the receiver panicked. How could he withstand this sword? At this critical moment, Junti spoke up. "Senior brother, don't panic. I have a plan." The receiver, Yuanshi, and Laozi all looked at Junti. Did he still have a trick up his sleeve? Under their watchful eyes, Junti tensed, frowned, and shouted loudly, "Teacher, save me." Chapter 28, Teacher, save me. Junti's desperate shout left Yuanshi, Laozi, and the receiver all stunned. Especially the receiver. If not for the imminent threat, he would have taken a moment to deal with Junti himself. Was this really Junti's plan? If shouting for help worked, did Junti think the receiver didn't have a mouth to call out as well? But Gu Changsheng's heavenly Slayer sword wouldn't hold for Junti's cry. The sword's blade, exuding a terrifying aura of destruction, continued its downward swing towards the receiver. Seeing this, the receiver only looked towards Yuanshi and Laozi. If they joined forces, they might withstand this sword strike. But what the receiver saw almost made him spit blood in anger. Yuanshi and Laozi had already retreated to a safe distance, fearing the sword's impact. Even more infuriating was the sight of Junti also retreating far away. It was as if these 3 feared the receiver wouldn't die. Given their prior experience with the Heavenly Slayer's sword's power, none of them wanted to confront it again. As the Heavenly Slayer's sword descended, the receiver had no choice but to summon the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus. There was no other choice. This was the strongest defensive measure he could think of at the moment. Golden light burst forth from the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus, rising to meet the Heavenly Slayer's sword. In the next moment, purple light and golden light collided violently. The terrible force further shattered the already crumbling Mount Sumu. Even a complete 12-rank merit Golden Lotus would struggle to withstand the Heavenly Slayer's sword's attack. The 9-rank merit Golden Lotus stood no chance. Under the receiver's watchful eyes, the destructive purple light rapidly consumed the golden glow. The Heavenly Slayer's sword broke through the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus defense, and headed straight for the receiver. The receiver could only gather his magic power to form a barrier in front of him. Fortunately, the 9-rank merit Golden Lotus had absorbed much of the sword's power, allowing the receiver to barely block it. Even so, the receiver was forced back several steps, his body trembling. Blood welled up in his throat, but he managed to swallow it down. However, when his gaze fell on the 9-rank merit golden lotus, he could no longer hold it back, and spat out a mouthful of blood. The already damaged 9-rank merit golden lotus had dimmed further, its power greatly diminished. This kind of damage couldn't be healed with time. In the aftermath of the 10,000 Immortals array battle, the 12-rank merit golden lotus had lost 3 ranks due to Mosquito Taoist, dropping to a 9-rank lotus. Now, after this sword strike, the 9-rank merit golden lotus had fallen further. It would be fair to call it a 6-rank merit golden lotus. Now, no longer an ultimate innate spiritual treasure, it had become an ordinary one. The receiver's heart bled. In just one encounter, he had lost both the Eastern Azure Lotus banner and the 12-rank merit golden lotus. He turned and glared fiercely at Yuanxi and Laozi. If we don't deal with Gu Changsheng now, do you think your human sect and Chan sect will be safe? Today he destroys Mount Sumu. Tomorrow he could destroy Jade Void Palace and Xian Mountain. This brought Yuanxi and Laozi back to their senses. Clearly, Gu Changsheng had returned, to avenge the Jie sect. The Chan sect, human sect, and Western sect were all deeply implicated in the Jie sect's downfall. Today's gathering of the 4 saints was the strongest force below Hogjin. No matter what, they had to capture Gu Changsheng today. So, the 4 saints attack, Gu Changsheng again. The battle reignited. In the distance, Random and the others watched in stunned silence. Since when could a disciple of the Jie sect fight against the 4 saints? Sehang Daoist tentatively asked. Random, do you think our master, the Jade Purity Saint, can defeat Gu Changsheng? Random snapped at him, clearly annoyed. How would I know? Do you think I can tell? Saintly battles were beyond his comprehension. Realizing his response was somewhat inappropriate, Random adjusted his tone. Of course, Gu Changsheng is strong, but and he really beat the 4 saints combined. In the entire wilderness, only the Dao ancestor can suppress the 4 saints. Who does Gu Changsheng think he is? Despite his words, Random couldn't help but worry as he watched the battle above. It appeared that Gu Changsheng was suppressing the 4 saints. How had Gu Changsheng become so powerful? This question also plagued the receiver during the battle. In this second clash, it became clear after only a moment. The 4 saints were being suppressed by Gu Changsheng, not because Yuanxi and Laozi weren't trying their best. The 4 saints were united in their determination to capture Gu Changsheng. The reason they were being suppressed was simple. The 4 saints combined were no match for Gu Changsheng. As much as they hated to admit it, it was the truth. Unless one of them resolved to use a self-damaging technique to harm Gu Changsheng significantly. Without such measures, they couldn't capture Gu Changsheng. Yuanxi, who had considered leveraging the immortality of a heavenly Dao saint to injure Gu Changsheng, reconsidered after seeing the receiver's treasures destroyed. Why should he sacrifice himself for this fight? Even if he resurrected through the heavenly Dao, his cultivation would suffer. The already weakened Chan sect would fare even worse. Unwilling to pay such a price, the saints continued to be suppressed by Gu Changsheng. Not even the Pangu banner or the Taijai diagram could withstand the heavenly Slayer's sword. A sword strike echoed, the heavenly Slayer's sword sweeping horizontally. Yuanxi and Laozi retreated several steps to avoid the strike. But the receiver and Zhenti were slower, especially Zhenti, RDS, whom the sword was aimed. What now? Use the 7 treasures tree. Zhenti couldn't bear to lose it. Desperate, Zhenti cried out again. Teacher, save me. This time, his cry was answered. A figure suddenly appeared in front of Zhenti, effortlessly blocking the heavenly Slayer's sword's attack. Hogjin had arrived. Hogjin looked at Gu Changsheng with a dark expression and said slowly, Gu Changsheng, you've gone too far. Chapter 29. Are you only capable of empty words? Hogjin had finally appeared. His eyes, as he looked at Gu Changsheng, were filled with a mix of anger and helplessness. In fact, when Gu Changsheng had emerged from the Chaos Pearl, Hogjin had already sensed it. But Hogjin hadn't paid much attention. One reason was that he was busy repairing the investiture of the gods. The other was that he didn't see the need to act. As the Grand Dao ancestor, it was beneath him to intervene repeatedly against a mere disciple of the Jie sect. As long as Gu Changsheng's actions stayed within the bounds of the rules, Hogjin would let him be. But the battle at Mount Sumu was starting to push the boundaries of the rules Hobjin had set. In this great wilderness under the way of heaven, all things were interconnected, each with its own cause and effect. The destruction of Mount Sumu wasn't a big deal. At most, it would harm the fate of the Western sect, but it could be replenished over time. But if Gu Changsheng continued causing trouble unchecked, and if one of the 4 sages of the primordial era were to perish, the ensuing cascade of cause and effect would be far more complex. Hobjin appeared before Gu Changsheng could speak. Immediately, the receiver stepped forward, his eyes red as if deeply wronged, and began to lament. Master, you must seek justice for our Western sect. This Gu Changsheng came too. Our Western sect killed our disciples, seized our treasures, and destroyed our sacred Mount Sumu. Pity our Mount Sumu, which took so long to recover from the catastrophe of the Dragon and Han tribulation, only to be destroyed again today. From a distance, Random and others wid and their eyes in disbelief at the receiver. Was this really the receiver? A sage? Even if he weren't a sage, no quasi-sage or great immortal would display such a demeanor. The receiver was plainly crying and complaining. Nearby, Qiu Shuxin and the others felt their hearts tight as Hobjin appeared. Though they hadn't faced Hobjin directly, the fact that Tongtian had been confined to Xixiao Palace while Yuanxi and Laozi remained unscathed, showed that Hobjin favored the human and Chan sects. Now, Hobjin appeared again. Gu Changsheng was powerful in to battle the 4 sages alone, but he was no match for Hobjin. The situation had escalated beyond what Qiu Shuxin and others could handle. They could only watch in silence. Gu Changsheng, too, was shocked by the receiver. Though he had known the 2 saints of the West were Melis, seeing it firsthand was still astonishing. How could the receiver completely disregard his sage dignity? Despite his shock, Gu Changsheng remained calm and spoke. What a joke! Every cultivator in the wilderness with ears knows that the long-eared Dingguang immortal was one of my master's 7 attendants. With my master absent, as the wielder of the Kingping's sword, I can act as the head of the Jie sect. So, Saint Receiver, what fault is there in me, acting as the head of the Jie sect, to punish a traitor and bring back our disciples? As for the injuries to your Western sect disciples, that's even more absurd. In terms of cultivation, I'm a primordial Da Luo golden immortal. In terms of position, I'm the acting head of the Jie sect. Your Western sect disciples showed no respect, and even dared to attack me. I gave them a minor punishment to help you teach your disciples. What's the problem? Gu Changsheng's successive statements left the receiver and his followers speechless. Especially Random, whose eyes were wide open. According to Gu Changsheng's reasoning, he should be thankful that Gu Changsheng had shown restraint. Junti could only point at Gu Changsheng, stuttering. You. But he couldn't find the words to argue. Gu Changsheng continued. You what? As for the collapse of Mount Sumu, I saw the 2 saints of the West setting up the Bodhi formation, so I had no choice but to act. Who knew your sacred place was so fragile? After these words, the receiver couldn't hold back his anger anymore and shouted. Are you only capable of empty words? As soon as he spoke, Gu Changsheng waved the Heavenly Slayer sword in his hand and said calmly, then let's stop talking and continue. Seeing the Heavenly Slayer's sword in Gu Changsheng's hand, the receiver felt a shiver in his heart. Fight? Not a chance. He was no match. Helpless, the receiver could only look at Hobjin. Hobjin, after a moment of contemplation, fixed his gaze on Gu Changsheng and said sternly, regardless, you destroyed Mount Sumu and must be punished. As Hobjin spoke, Gu Changsheng's left hand summoned the Chaos Pearl, ready to escape at any moment. But before Gu Changsheng could activate it, Hobjin raised his hand and pointed at Gu Changsheng. A streak of golden light shot towards Gu Changsheng, striking the Chaos Pearl directly. Suddenly, Gu Changsheng realized he had lost his connection with the Chaos Pearl and couldn't activate it or enter it. In fact, after their last confrontation at the Investiture of the Gods platform, Hobjin had thought about how to deal with Gu Changsheng. Though the Chaos Pearl was tricky, it wasn't without solutions. Gu Changsheng's cultivation was the key. Though his primordial Da Luo 5-fold heaven cultivation was top tier in the wilderness, it was still inferior to Hobjin's. So Hobjin just needed to block Gu Changsheng's connection with the Chaos Pearl using the power of heaven before Gu Changsheng could activate it. Without the Chaos Pearl, Gu Changsheng couldn't escape. But what Hoggen didn't know was that Gu Changsheng's true trump card wasn't the Chaos Pearl, but the system. Hoggen could block the connection between Gu Changsheng and the Chaos Pearl, but what about the system? Looking at Gu Changsheng, Hoggen said lightly, "You must come back with me to Jiejiao Palace, and be confined for 1,000 years. Yuanshi and others were overjoyed. Gu Changsheng was done for. But just as Hoggen finished speaking, Gu Changsheng disappeared before their eyes. Capture me to Jiejiao Palace. It seems you are not quite capable enough. Gu Changsheng's voice still echoed in their ears, but he was nowhere to be seen. Chapter 30. It's not over yet. The crowd was stunned once again. Randong even rubbed his eyes repeatedly, confirming that Gu Changsheng had truly vanished. Gu Changsheng and the others let out a sigh of relief. It was good that Gu Changsheng managed to escape. Though he left today, the hope of Jie's sect still remained. As for Yuanshi and the others, they were even more shocked. As saints, what haven't Yuanshi and his peers encountered before? How many things in this vast world could still astonish saints? Yet, ever since Gu Changsheng appeared, events that defied the ants' understanding had been happening one after another. Even Jiang cautiously glanced at Hoggen to confirm whether Gu Changsheng had really escaped. After all, escaping once from Hoggen was one thing, but twice. Hoggen stood there, slightly dazed. Clearly, he had already severed Gu Changsheng's connection with the Chaos Pearl. In other words, it was absolutely impossible for Gu Changsheng to escape into the space within the Chaos Pearl. But now, he could not sense Gu Changsheng's presence at all. Gu Changsheng was truly not here. What kind of technique was this? Pace law? No, that wasn't it. Hoggen used the power of the Tao to deduce, but the result was that Gu Changsheng was not in the vast world at all. This left Hoggen completely bewildered. Had he really let Gu Changsheng escape twice? How could he maintain his reputation as the Tao ancestor, or like this? Just as Hoggen thought Gu Changsheng had escaped, Gu Changsheng suddenly reappeared in front of everyone and said calmly, "It seems even the Tao ancestor cannot do anything to me." Gu Changsheng emerged from the system space, speaking slowly. He had come out to resolve the matter at hand. His return to the vast world was to revive Jie's sect. He couldn't just escape into the system space whenever Hoggen made a move. Seeing Gu Changsheng appear again, Hoggen frowned deeply, unable to comprehend. There were no fluctuations of power, no signs of spatial rupture. What had Gu Changsheng done? While Hoggen was pondering, Jiang spoke up, "You can escape, but what about your disciples of Jie's sect?" The words were filled with threat. However, Yuanshi, standing beside him, shook his head helplessly. This trick wouldn't work. It had been tried before. On the Fengshan platform, ignoring Jiang's threat, Gu Changsheng looked directly at Hoggen and said in a stern voice, "If anyone dares to shamelessly bully the weak, causing harm to my disciples of Jie's sect, I will annihilate every cultivator in this world. If my Jie sect is destroyed, I will ensure this world becomes barren and lifeless." These words were not meant for Jiang but for Hoggen. Jiang was of no consequence. Gu Changsheng was warning Hoggen. Hoggen's brows furrowed deeply, a terrifying aura emanating from him. For the first time since becoming a saint and merging with the Tao, he was being threatened in this manner. Yet, he had no way to deal with Gu Changsheng right now. He truly didn't know what method Gu Changsheng had used to escape from right under his nose. Hoggen spoke coldly, "I suppose you don't wish to keep hiding forever, do I? Let's make a deal. From now on, neither of us will intervene in any matter. How about that?" This was Hoggen's way of limiting Gu Changsheng. But Gu Changsheng immediately rejected. "Why should I agree? You are the Tao ancestor, and I am a disciple of Tongtian. Why should I act the same as you? If I refrain from acting, what if Yuanshi and the others bully my disciples?" As expected by Hoggen, Gu Changsheng's answer was as he anticipated. Hoggen then said, "What if neither you nor Yuanshi and the others intervene? As long as Gu Changsheng did not act, the rest could do as they pleased." Once he repaired the Fengshan list, and further merged with the Tao, he would have ways to deal with Gu Changsheng. Listening to Hoggen's proposal, Gu Changsheng said calmly, "I can only promise not to act first. But if someone foolishly provokes me, then it won't be my fault." Gu Changsheng added a condition to his intervention. Upon hearing this, Randong and the others in the distance couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Who would dare provoke Gu Changsheng? They would have to be blind. Hoggen thought for a moment, then nodded, agreed. Yes, the struggle between Hoggen and Gu Changsheng temporarily came to an end. Hoggen now only wanted peace in the vast world to repair the Fengshen list. With that, Hoggen prepared to leave. However, Jiang couldn't allow it. Seeing Hoggen about to go, he quickly called out, "Teacher, my Western sect. Handle it yourself." Before he could finish, Hoggen's figure had already disappeared, leaving only those words behind. Solve it yourself. If the two saints of the West could deal with Gu Changsheng, would they need to call for help? With Hoggen gone, it meant that the Western sect had to accept their loss today. Gu Changsheng waved his hand, pulling Gu Changsheng and the others over, and didn't forget the already transformed Wu Wangxian. The 6 clean bamboo shone brightly, gently touching Wu Wangxian, restoring him to his original form. "Let's go, returning to Jiejiao Island." Upon hearing this, Gu Changsheng and the others were ecstatic. They never thought they would have the chance to return to Jiejiao Island. The two Western saints couldn't hold back any longer. If Gu Changsheng were allowed to take Gu Changsheng and the others what would become of the Western sect's dignity? Shanti stepped forward and shouted, "Gu Changsheng, you are just going to leave like this?" Gu Changsheng stopped, looked back at Shanti, playing with the 6 clean bamboo in his hand, and said lightly, "Oh, have the two saints of the West found their conscience and feel guilty, wanting to compensate me? I'll keep the 6 clean bamboo. No need for anything else." Shanti was so angry that he couldn't speak. What could they do? They were no match for Gu Changsheng. Hoggen had left, and continuing to fight would cost more than just the 6 clean bamboo. At this moment, Jiang stared at Gu Changsheng and said, word by word, "Gu Changsheng, don't get too complacent. It's not over yet." Having suffered such a loss, how could Jiang possibly let it go? They would let Gu Changsheng be complacent for a while longer. Gu Changsheng responded calmly, "You are right, it's not over yet. The actions of the two Western saints against Jie's sect couldn't just be written off. Don't worry, the road ahead is long, we'll take our time." With that, Gu Changsheng took Gu Changsheng and the others away from Mount Sumi, heading back to Jiejiao Island. As they left, silence fell over Mount Sumi. After a long while, Shanti spoke, "Yuanshu Taoist, Taishang Taoist, this matter cannot be let go.